Hey there, it's Jessie here, and big fat warm welcome to this big fat warm channel. Thank you very much for being here. I gotta change that intro. It's not giving me the same buzz as it used to. It used to make me laugh. Doesn't anymore, so it's time to change. Coming soon. How are you doing today? I don't have much to say, but there are two topics, and I wonder which I want to talk about. Okay, one I'll start with is forgiveness. And I really think this is like a big one if we want to live in a more loving, kind, gentle world. And we heard it all before, right? But this came through to me in like a new way the other day. So on the course that I'm doing, if you want to graduate the course, you need to give a monograph. It's a bit like doing a thesis and then defending your thesis at the end. And I was watching the old students do theirs. And one of the students that I watched is Ukrainian. So on this course, we have a lot of Ukrainians and Russians, and then Portuguese and like other Europeans. And it's fascinating working with a group doing healing work, trauma release, and raising awareness with two nationalities that are currently at war. It's very, very interesting experience. Like, this is in the field. And it's much easier for me to say, being somebody who's not from one of these countries, to witness how we're all human beings trying to, at least the people on this course are trying to evolve and heal and not make the same mistakes. And it's very curious for me to see how much hatred and resistance there is from the Ukrainians towards the Russians. And I don't judge this. I can't comprehend what that's like, because from where I'm standing, the Russians are equally trying to heal and resolve and overcome this. And they're just human beings. So I see them beyond their nationality. But that's quite difficult for a lot of the Ukrainians to do. And my best friend's Ukrainian. And for all of her wisdom and all of the work that she's done and all of her awareness, it's very difficult for her to not feel resistance towards people from a country that's invaded her country for centuries. So from my standpoint, I'm like, they're just human beings. How could you define somebody based on where they're born? But it's not in my blood, that ancestral memory of invasion. Now, this woman who was doing the monograph is Ukrainian. And she was asked a question at the end by our teacher saying, because when they were filming this, when the video was made, it was at the beginning of the war, like the beginning of the war. The most recent invasion that was broadcast on the news, because it didn't begin 3 years ago. Maybe more now. My goodness. Anyway. So she said, what have you learned on the course that is helping you now with this war situation? And she said a few things and this and that. But the one that really struck me was, she said, I think the main thing for me is forgiveness. And to find it in my heart to forgive these people that have invaded us for so long. And, wow, just chills went up my spine when I heard this. Deeply, it resonated in me as a way to heal and end these cycles of war. Can we find it within us to forgive the perpetrator, the invader, the aggressor? And that is a big ask, all right? Because, then our teacher Satya said, how can we do this in our lives on a smaller scale? And I thought about it. I thought about like who I'm not forgiving. And it's always the people that have wronged us, right? That have hurt us deeply, where, at least from my perspective, it feels righteous not to forgive. It's almost like a punishment. It's a way of maintaining some sense of control in a situation where we've been so hurt. And in my life, recently I talked about it, but earlier this year, I was really hurt by somebody on the course. And I had to set quite firm boundaries. And she's not taking that well because of the relationship we had formed, but it was a real breach of trust on my side. And I need to keep myself emotionally safe from people who are erratic in their behavior. And I thought, can I forgive her? And, I think like a deeper part of me says yes, but the noise in my head are like, no. And it's this attitude, isn't it? Like, like, you don't get my forgiveness. That is the attitude. You don't deserve it. And I'm like, hold on. Because we know if we don't forgive, then we are holding on to resentment. We're holding the grudge. We hold on to that. And then it gets all sticky and messy and eventually evolves into disease. So can I forgive her? And I thought about it, and I thought I actually can forgive her. I can see, her motivations to behave in that way. Why? Where it comes from, unhealed parts in her. I can have understanding and empathy for behaving in such a way. And I think I can forgive that. But I'm not going to forget it. And I think that's it for me, is I can forgive, but I won't forget. And I think for me, in that not forgetting is the ending of cycles. Because forgiving and forgetting doesn't hold a boundary that we will ensure personally that this behavior won't be repeated to us. Okay, I forgive you and I can understand and have empathy for the way that you behaved, but I won't forget it. And therefore, I will maintain a boundary until I see a change in the behavior. And it's also reminding me, because you know what I think is important about forgiving, if we can do it? Has anyone seen the documentary Human? It's on YouTube for free. I highly recommend. It's 3 parts. And this man travels the world and he asks the same questions to people all over the world from all different walks of life. And they're the big questions, what is love? Things like that. What are you most afraid of? And it starts, and I'll even link this interview down below, and I may have even done this before, but here we go. I'm reiterating it. I'll link it down below. It's an interview of a man. And if you don't want any spoilers, watch it first and then come back to this if you want to. It's a man in prison, and he's in prison for killing his wife and child. And he is talking about how he learnt what love is through the mother of the woman he killed, his wife, and the grandmother of the child he killed, visiting him in prison and offering forgiveness. And you see how deeply it moves this man, that he had the opportunity to be loved despite horrendous actions. And he says, that the one woman that should hate me most was able to forgive. And that teaching that she offered him is what healed him, and then he's able to recognize what he learned in childhood and the confusion that he had around love and violence and what might have led him to that. Through her forgiveness, she didn't see him as a monster, which allowed him not to see himself as a monster. And that has always stayed with me, and I will show that video to any class that I get. But it's good to be honest with ourselves, isn't it? If we're not able to forgive, it's totally all right, I think, if we're not at a place. We can't force it, and we can't lie to ourselves or others saying that we've forgiven them when we haven't. I mean, when I checked in, I could see the part of me that was like, like, I ain't gonna forgive. Okay, so what's that doing inside of me? What's that protecting? Oh, actually, it's a way to protect myself from feeling the pain and the grief of the hurt that they did to me. It's a false sense of empowerment. I mean, maybe it's not false. There is tints and hints of empowerment. It's protection in a way. But I'm holding on to something there, aren't I? Onto a grudge. So let's just be real honest about ourselves. If we are at a place where we can forgive, and if we're not, that's all right. But just let's examine what that is actually doing for us. Maybe it's necessary. But watch this video, and it's just an absolute example of how healing forgiveness can be if we can genuinely come to that place in our hearts. And I'm not in a position now when my country is at war, although for my, ancestors it was. I don't know. And like looking back on history, I was from a country that invaded more. So it's more on the other side. And I don't feel I need forgiveness. Need. Did you hear I said that? Need. I don't. But anyway, I digress now because I'm going off into my mind and my memories and into a different space. So this video, I invite you to think about who you cannot forgive. Or times when it's been really difficult to forgive. Is there anything you're holding on to? And can you find it in your heart to forgive? I'm not telling you need to do this. If you can't, it's totally fine. I get it. I get what it's like when people hurt us. But I will say this, if we want to live in a more kind and loving world without war, it's a really nice step for the oppressor to heal. And you don't have to do it if you don't want to and you're not ready. Okay? But I think I will choose to. So thank you very much for watching. Short and sweet today. Like this video if you liked it. Let us know thoughts down below. Hit subscribe. Welcome to the new subscribers. Hello. Thank you for joining. You're very, very welcome here for as long as you need. Otherwise, have a beautiful day and a beautiful life. We got this.